Tribal Health and Human Services Department of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes is proud to present Good Medicine, a program dedicated to the wellness of the Flathead Nation. The mission is summarized quite simply: a healthier people, a stronger nation. We will strive to make good medicine a reliable source of ideas and information about health issues so that everyone can make informed decisions about their own lifestyle and health care. You will meet health professionals, tribal government and spiritual leaders, and interesting people from the tribal community discussing important health issues that profoundly affect us all.
Good afternoon. This is Roxane Colman-Herak, your host of Good Medicine. Today we have two very interesting guests that's going to be talking to us a little bit about what we can be doing in the home to safeguard our homes. We have with us George Simpson from the Lake County Sheriff's Department, a deputy, and we also have Kim Leibenguth, a detective with the Lake County Sheriff's Office. Thank you both, Kim and George, for coming in to talk to us a little bit about safety precautions in the home. George, tell us a little bit about who you are and why you do what you do and what we should know about you.
Sure. I've been in law enforcement a good bit of my adult life here. I came from a larger agency in North Florida, the city of Jacksonville, which is a much larger department with 2,000 deputies. And I moved here a little over a year ago and been employed with the Lake County Sheriff's Office. And the big reason that I got into law enforcement was to help people, not in a way like a locksmith might come help you get your keys out of the car, but when you're a victim of a crime, it's a very personal thing, and I like to be there and help somebody the best way I can, and to maybe help them recover some things that they have lost through their feelings or property or whatever it may be.
That's a huge violation when someone's robbed, and I have actually been in that situation. It is a huge violation, a personal violation. And I don't think you're ever the same once you've been robbed or someone has stolen from you. You're never quite the same or quite as trusting as maybe you would have been previously. Kim, tell us about you.
I have 26 years law enforcement experience total. I have been with Lake County almost 10 years now. I have been a detective here and a school resource officer. I am currently a detective, and I handle the follow-ups on the burglaries and the thefts and those types of crimes here in Lake County.
Is that a problem?
Yes.
Here in our community?
It's a big problem.
Tell us about that.
We get, I couldn't give you an exact amount of burglaries and thefts, but we do have a large call volume on those. And a majority of those are cases that are kind of hard to solve because the fact that people don't have the needed information for us to do the follow-up on, as far as serial numbers, as far as being to identify jewelry, personal items. You know, they have rings or something and they'll tell us, you know, the ring looks like this. But if they have a picture, it makes all the difference in the world.
So what are some things that people really need to be aware of and safety precautions that we need to know about?
Sure, and you're going to start to see, particularly this time of year as it gets warmer, you're going to see more people out and about. You're going to see more people taking advantage of the lake, taking vacations and traveling. So you're a little more vulnerable this time of year when you're not home. The good news is there's lots of stuff that you can do to safeguard your property and your home and protect your items. There's a lot of things that you can do outside through just the type of landscaping and stuff that you use. There's a lot of things that you can do inside the home. There's a lot of cost-effective things that don't cost you a lot of money to do. So for instance, some real quick simple things that you can do is if you're out of town, particularly this time of year when the grass is growing, if you're going to be on vacation for a couple weeks, maybe have somebody mow your yard from time to time to give the presence that somebody is home. So you have a hard target and easy target, and your ideal home should be a hard target. If there's the presence that somebody is home, or the appearance that somebody is home, your burglar is more likely going to walk down to the house that appears to be vacant. So if you're gone, have somebody get your mail so your newspaper box isn't overflowing with papers. Maybe set your lights up on a timer. Maybe spend $1 or $2 at Ace Hardware or Walmart and get some beware the dog signs. You don't necessarily have to have a dog, but if you have the signs up on the fence, you know, somebody can see that and go, oh, they got a dog, I don't want to mess with that, and go to the next house. You can set your TV up on a timer so they can hear that noise. They may be confused whether or not somebody's in there. Those are just a couple cheap things. You can invest in an alarm system. Some people, they'll ask, should I get a quiet alarm or an alarm that somebody can hear? There's two train of thoughts on that. One, if it's a quiet alarm, the law enforcement can get there quieter and maybe sneak up and catch the person in action. That's a good idea, but that might not always be the way. We have a very large county, and sometimes the response time isn't what it'd like to be. Obviously, if you live in a Turtle Lake, I'm going to get there faster if I'm coming from Polson, but if I'm coming from Arlee, it's going to take some time. In my opinion, I think the best type of alarm you could get would be an audible one, a loud one. Make as much noise as you can to scare whoever's in there to run out.
It will also draw attention by possibly your neighbors that may be able to see a vehicle leaving or people and be able to give a description to us of maybe what they're wearing, which way they were headed.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we talked about before the program started is, you know, we used to have a neighborhood watch. You know who your neighbors are, whether they're good neighbors, whether they're bad neighbors. I think the point is you need to know who your neighbors are.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And get to know your neighbors. You know, get to know their vehicles so that you can also be vigilant to watch what's happening maybe at their home if they're gone.
Well, what's your thoughts on why do you think the crime rate is so high right now?
Well, I think the economy has to do with it. A lot of times when suspects take somebody else's items, they're selling it for money. Whether they need the money because they're facing some kind of hardship in their life or drugs. And I know drugs are a common problem all across the country. We're not immune to it here in Lake County. And that's a way that people would finance that.
And they'll take easy tradable items, firearms, jewelry, those types of things, because those can trade hands very, very fast.
Yeah, there's been several thefts, businesses actually, where there's a high volume of firearms. It's kind of a scary thought when you think about Montana being a pretty high gun ownership state.
Right.
It's absolutely scary. So, and I like to hunt, just like everybody else in Montana, and I come from a strong background where my family does. And again, that gets back to the personalization and being such a victim. It's a very personal and tragic crime. For somebody to go into your house, particularly when you're not home, and go into your bedroom, probably the most private place that you would have in your home, and take a gun, a rifle, or a shotgun that was left to you by your grandfather, your father, you know, that you may have killed your first deer with. That's a very personal item for your family, and to have somebody take that is a very big deal.
Those items of sentimental value are probably more hard for a person to get over than it is, you know, just something that they had.
The other thing we talked about is like people scouting. I mean, there's oftentimes people driving around in communities that probably don't need to be driving around in communities, you know, scouting different
Absolutely.
areas.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that.
And that happens in people, I like to call it advertise. They advertise what they have without knowing. A lot of houses around here have beautiful scenery. They can see the lake, they can see the mountains, so there's a lot of windows and big windows that they have, and they'll leave their blinds open all the time. And that's good, and you should do that. But when you're not home, you shouldn't do that. If you have a brand new flat screen TV and you set it up in front of that window in your living room that everybody drives by that can see it, and when you buy that TV, if you take the box and put it at the end of the street for the trash man to get, everybody sees the box. And they say, oh, hey, she just bought a brand new TV. I'm going to go get it when her car's not there. So some things that you can do to prevent that is maybe keep that box in the garage until it's trash day, or until you take it to the dump, or maybe cut it up and throw it inside of a trash bag. Another thing is children's bicycles. They always want to leave their bicycles at the end of the driveway and not put them behind the fence.
Right.
Same thing with like a nice fancy grill or something. Somebody will leave it out in the yard. You know, it takes you extra 2 minutes to throw it behind the fence so you don't lose your bike after your birthday or after Christmas. Or just put it in the garage.
Or even move it closer to your home so that
Absolutely.
it's, you know, not so accessible.
Well, this has kind of made the hairs on my back stand up a little bit, but so I'm glad that there's a prevention portion of this, where there's things that we can do. There's a lot of things that I've learned just before
Sure.
the program started that I wasn't aware of. So this is pretty interesting. Tell me a little bit about, Kim, the crime prevention and the environmental design.
Crime prevention through environmental design is, I went to some training in California, and it's about, you know, trimming your hedges down so it's not blocking a window. If your window is blocked by a large hedge, you can't see someone, your neighbor can't see someone climbing in through that window. Maybe planting different types of shrubbery outside of the window, which maybe have thorns or something like that, so people don't have that access to those as easily.
Let me write that down. Rose bushes I need to get on the way home.
Or any type of you know, shrub or anything that maybe has thorns or needles or something like that on that, you know, when you grab them or you step on them, they're going to hurt.
So that's to thwart somebody who may see that as a hiding space.
Absolutely. You know, your window's blocked. It's much easier to break that window and get in. Nobody's going to see it. You know, and we, as we know, we have a lot of people that only live here during the summer months. And they may have those hedges or those shrubs that completely cover those windows. And so when a neighbor drives by for the past 6 months, they didn't notice that window was broken.
So we talked a little bit about things that you can do, have people check your mail, some of the preventative things if you are going to be out of town. One thing that came to mind in this discussion is probably not posting that you're going on vacation for a month on Facebook or any other social media forum.
And that's a big thing I was talking about, you know, buying a new TV and you're excited you do, or, you know, your child has a new bicycle or something like that. A lot of people like to put that out on Facebook so everybody knows, and, you know, and that's a whole nother topic, but you really need to safeguard some of the information that you do put online there. And to add to what Kim was saying about the different landscaping that you could have around your house, one thing when you go away on vacation, say you're going to be gone for a week or two, and we're talking about moving your cars and mowing the yard and have somebody check your mail, you can also call your local law enforcement. You can call the Polson Police Department, the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Tribal Law and Order, and let us know, hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Could you maybe drive by my house from time to time? And we will. And if you have the landscape cut back so we can see those windows, or if you eliminate a spot where a bad guy could hide when we drive by, that's something that we could see, and that would make a big difference as well.
Wow.
It's just deterrence.
Sure.
Deterrence to keep people from wanting to go into your home.
You know, today I've noticed, and there were a lot of people use Craigslist and other things to advertise things for sale. There's a good side of it and there's a bad side of it.
Sure.
The bad side of it is that there's a map where as soon as you type in your account information, this map comes up that can take people right to your home.
Right. And that's pretty easy anymore with the Google Maps that you can even get on phones or on the internet or anything like that. I mean, you can look at neighborhoods and see, you know, vehicles parked in the driveway, vehicles not there, those types of things. So
Hold that thought. We're going to take a real short public service announcement break. We're going to come back and continue this dialogue, so stay tuned.
Green power, do you understand it? It comes from our Earth's forces to generate future energy. The coming generations will either reap the benefits or pay the price for decisions made today. Are you willing to invest for the future? Only $3, $5, or $7 per month makes a huge difference for our children. Call 883-7900 for information. We'll leave a legacy. It's up to all of us what that legacy will be.
Okay, so we're back. Let's just dive right into this. We have 13 minutes left, so let's cover a lot of information. I'd like to, George, maybe direct this to you. What about keys? We kind of talked about
Absolutely.
Montana and keys.
So I came from Jacksonville, Florida, a much larger city than the state of Montana. There's 950,000 people in that county alone. Everybody locked their door. Still had burglaries, and a lot of them were forced. But what I'm noticing here is the majority of burglaries are not forced entry. And what I mean by that is they didn't kick down the door, they didn't break the window. The door was unlocked or the door was open. And I would ask people when I'm at their home was, how did somebody get in? The two important things that I want to know, and we'll go over that when we get to the what to do when the police show up, but is how did they get in and how did they get out? And so that's one of the questions I ask, and they say, well, I left my door unlocked. And usually my next question is, well, why did you do that? And they say, well, nothing bad happens here. So then we get to well, this is really uncomfortable because it happened and now I'm here. And that's right. And I don't want to scare anybody. This is a safe place. This is a beautiful place. That's why I moved here with my family. I mean, I'm married and I have 2 little girls, and I enjoy it, and it's so much better than where I came from. So the crime is not incredibly high, so please don't think that. But bad things do happen. That's just the reality of the situation. So the absolute, I don't want to say absolute because stuff still happens, but another way to prevent the burglars is just to lock your door. That's simple. You can lock your doors. You can keep your windows shut. If your windows don't have locks, get locks. If you have a sliding glass door on the back, you can just cut a broom handle and throw it in the tracks so the door can't be pushed open. It's a cheap solution to securing the doors. But people need to realize that they need to make themselves that hard target. Just lock the door.
Another thing that's kind of typical for Montanans is they'll often leave their keys in their vehicle.
Sure.
I mean, we trust. I mean, that's a good thing that, you have that level of trust. But I think, there comes a point where this goes beyond trust. This goes about really creating safety and setting a good example. Don't leave your keys in your vehicles.
Right,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's an easy target. You walk by, you see a set of keys in it. Why not get in and, get home a lot faster than maybe walking?
Yeah.
So let's talk now. Let's kind of narrow it down.
Okay.
What we can do, like step by step, as homeowners to protect our property. You've talked a lot about what we can be doing outside. The keys, you were talking about what people do when you do lock your house. Where do you put your key?
And a majority of people will do what a majority of people do. Put the key under the mat, put it under the flower pot next to the front door. That's the first place somebody's going to look. Maybe give that key to a family friend or a relative, your extra key, in case you've lost yours or you've left it in the house. You can call that person. Everybody has, cell phones and able to get a hold of people. And I would rather, be able to call, like George and say, locked my keys in my house. Can I run out and grab my other key? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd want somebody that you trust.
Absolutely.
And not somebody where if you have a tiff, that's
Right. Not going to give it to. Right.
And if there comes a problem, if you do end up having a problem with somebody and you don't think you're going to get your key back, change your locks.
And
Change
they're
your
very,
locks.
very inexpensive to
Yeah.
change them.
Or if you do hide your key, don't hide it in one of the common spots that Kim mentioned. But if that's what you decide to do, hide it in a place not normal, like not under the rug, not under the flower pot. Make sure it's in a place where somebody can't see you retrieve it. Make sure you don't make a habit of using it all the time so people see that. And don't tell nobody where it's at.
And
Keep it a
change that
secret.
spot occasionally.
Sure.
Move that key around. Because who's to say someone didn't see you, take that key out of the same place 3 times. And they've decided, hey, they're out of town, we're going to go. I know where the key is. The key's not there because you've moved it.
Well, where should someone, let's say they're taking inventory, they're taking pictures, they're getting serial numbers and all these things. where should they store this? I mean, because a computer, here's the thing, you store everything in your computer.
If somebody takes your
You know,
computer,
chances are,
right.
and even your cell phone. I mean, you know, they have
Yes,
some pretty
ma'am.
nice cameras on the phone. Okay, so someone now has taken your phone that has pictures of everything that you have on your phone. What would your recommendations be?
And I'll tell you what I've done is that I've burned all of my pictures onto a CD, and I have a written list, which includes a description, serial numbers. If it's jewelry, you know, kind of describe it as best as you can. Look on the insides of the bands to see if there's numbering or marking or anything like that. But I burned it to 3 separate discs and photocopied the 3 separate papers. I have one at the house, I have one at the office, and I have one as safety deposit box. If you have a lock box at home and you only have one and it's in that small lock box, that's probably going to be gone. You know, maybe give a copy of it to, you know, a family member or someone that you do trust.
And I think we talk about inventory, but on the inventory should be a description of what it is. Like I wouldn't just write pistol. I would write a Ruger 6-shot 22 caliber revolver is how I would write the description. Then I'd put the serial number down, and then I would list the colors. It's a black barrel and has brown wood grips. And then if I had a receipt or a warranty or something that came with it, that's what I would have for that item. And then a picture, an overall picture of it, and then maybe the serial number, and then where is that at in your house? Is it in your bedroom? Is it in your kitchen? Because that's another thing. When we get to what the deputy needs for the report, it's important to kind of know what room that was in.
You talked a little earlier about what happens if someone is coming home and they notice something different. Maybe the door is open.
Don't go in. Don't go in. Call 911 right away. Let an officer go out and check it out. May have been the wind that blew it open, but you don't want to walk in there and there might be someone still in your home. You know, back down the road. Call and sit in your vehicle and wait for an officer to come in. You know, a lot of people will think, oh, the wind blew it open and start in through the doorway and notice that their house has been, you know, gone through. At that point, stop right there, back out, and call 911.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we talked about is having little locks, little safes in the house. Probably not a good idea for storing valuables.
Absolutely, they're an easy item to pick up and take. You know, those smaller safes aren't that heavy.
Okay, so let's run it down here. We're going to run it all down step by step for you. Make sure that you're documenting information about valuables in your home. Taking pictures.
Absolutely, descriptions, serial numbers. You know, I mean, you could tell me that you have a ring that, you know, has a diamond in the center with 6 diamonds
By the way,
on
what kind of
each
ring is that? I'm just kidding.
with 6 diamonds on each side, but there may be a whole lot of rings that look like that. But if you have a picture, it makes all the difference in the world.
And the reason that that's important is when it comes to the recovery. Say we stop a car and it's a young man and he has 20 rings that are made for women. It's kind of unusual,
Right.
So we're going to get that information back to the detectives. And then that deputy, whoever does the stop, may take a picture or tend to investigate why this guy has, you know, such unusual stuff. That's where the photo helps, the serial number helps. When we go to a pawn shop to look for the item, that's where that would help. And that's why. So we have to be able to identify that item and relate it back to you.
Wouldn't that be important also for insurance? I mean, wouldn't
Absolutely.
insurance require?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
They want a description of the stuff and what it looked like, but if you've got it all, they can't argue with you about, you know, the size of the diamond or something.
And your insurance is going to ask for the report. That's how the insurance investigator works. And even if you rent, I suggest you maintain renter's insurance too.
Okay, so we've got some homework to do out there, myself included. I'm going to go buy a dog on the way home. Big
know,
dog
just
that
like-
barks loud.
Just like George said earlier, if you don't want a dog, put a couple of bowls out on your front porch, fill them with water, and put a little dog food in there.
Put a sign that says beware of the dog. Yeah.
Security system, I know there's also signs out there that said this house is protected by
Absolutely, put those
security.
signs up. There's
Right.
stickers you can get on your windows that say the same thing. For $2, you can get a dozen stickers to put on your window, and that'll deter. Somebody walks up to it and thinks about going inside, and they see these things. They see the dog sign. They know the car's been moved. The light comes on because it's on a timer. They see the sticker or the alarm. They're going to go to the next house that doesn't have all that stuff
Right, it's a deterrent.
because they want to get in fast and easy.
So, you know, it would be nice, you know, we used to have neighborhood watch, and that was actually a good thing because your neighbors actually did watch after each other. So I think probably we need to, whatever the situation is with the neighbors, to know who they are, get familiar with their vehicles that they drive, the traffic coming in and out, and certainly report something if it doesn't feel right. It probably isn't right.
Right, and don't be afraid to call 911. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, the suspect will come to your house in advance. They may drive by. It may be that unusual car that you haven't seen. You can just call and say, hey, for the last 2 nights at 7 o'clock at night, I've seen this red truck out there. It doesn't live here. He's got Washington license plates on his vehicle. That's unusual, and we need to know that. If anything else, that we have a record of it. So if something happens the next day, we have a place to start. But if somebody comes to your house and says, my car broke down, can I use your telephone?
Right.
Or if they're, particularly if you don't see a car, or if they're trying to sell you a product that I'm so-and-so salesman and they're not in a uniform and they can't produce ID and it just gives you a creepy feeling, don't let them into your home. What they're trying to do is look around and see if you have
what's
that
in there.
TV, see if you have that computer they want, see if you do have a dog, see if you do lock your door. They're trying to get a feel for the situation. And if that happens, you can talk them out and to where they leave, because chances are they're just in observation mode. They're not really going to commit the crime then. And as soon as they leave, call your local law enforcement and tell them, and give them the best description that you can give them. Was it a man or a woman? What did they look like? Did they have tattoos? Did they have glasses? What were they wearing? What kind of vehicle were they in? If you're able to get any license plate information. You might not necessarily say, hey, I know it's a 15 county 123 tag, but you can say, well, it's a blue Montana tag. Any little bit that you can get would help. And then after you tell us, tell your neighbors, hey, just so you know, this guy came to my house and was doing this, and he was kind of weird, and I called the police, and if you see him, you should call the police too.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this program. This was a lot of information. So you've got some work to do out there. We all have some work to do. So let's make our homes and our surroundings safer. Thank you very much, George, for coming in today.
Thank
It was
you.
just a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you
for
for having
sharing
me.
your information. Kim, thank you very much. It's always nice to see you too.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.